I feel very honored to be able to speak here with you guys today in front of our nation's capital. And I'm proud to count myself among such amazing Americans willing to stand up for what's right and just. You are the embodiment of what it means to be an American patriot. Today is a day of remembrance. Many of us can recount exactly where we were 12 years ago, when we were viciously attacked by Muslim jihadists. I remember exactly where I was. I had just barely finished a JROTC training event, and I walked into my English class to see the second plane hit the second tower. It was at that moment that I knew that I would be joining the military, and that one moment changed my life forever. This day also holds very special significance for me personally, because it was the day that I was actually awarded my Eagle Globe and Anchor as a United States Marine. Now, some of you may be wondering where I'm going with this story, and it all boils down to this day, September 11th. Because 1 year ago, again, on this day, we were attacked by Muslim terrorists. As a Marine, we are taught that we leave no man behind.
That's right! That's right!
We will go to whatever lengths are necessary for our citizens and our brothers that are in harm's way. Marine Corps history is full of legends of the courageous lengths that they will go to pull out a wounded comrade, or to go and rescue even an enemy combatant. But this government is full of cowards. This administration is full of cowards. The Congress is full of cowards. You can tell that they don't understand the principle of leaving no man behind, because we lost 4 brave men in Benghazi. And had it not been for the actions of those 2 Navy SEALs, it likely would have been more than 4. There were over 30 Americans present at the consulate when it was attacked. When we the people have demanded answers, we've been met with silence. When persons in this administration were questioned about Benghazi, we got nothing but excuses, lies, and blaming a YouTube video. Many in Congress have accepted the answers given by the administration, even though nothing has been done. No one has taken responsibility. The only thing that has come out of this investigation is to confirm that there were lies and cover-ups. But no one has done anything about the State Department denying additional security to Benghazi, or the lies that were told to us, the American people, by our own president. The Speaker of the House, John Boehner, is even blocking our attempts to get a special committee to further the investigation. That's in spite of members of Congress that are pushing for it, that are listening to the people. He won't. Our current Secretary of State, John Kerry, he thinks that there are more important things that can be done than us getting to the bottom of 4 American lives that were lost needlessly, brutally murdered, as people in the White House watched and did nothing. Our own president and his press secretary think that this event is nothing more than a phony scandal, or just some bumps in the road.
Focus, focus!
Obviously, they cannot see that it involved the deaths of our citizens. And we're not asking this for political reasons, but because they're our countrymen who died. A lot of us here today are here for different reasons. I'm here because I cannot stand the cowardice and injustice that the men and women who work right behind me in that building and all throughout this city. They have given the American people nothing but this cowardice, and it goes far beyond the attack in Benghazi. These cowards are actively seeking to destroy the very fabric of our nation. I could spend an entire week speaking about the infractions against our people and our way of life, and it would just be the very tip of the iceberg. To put it plainly, nearly every man and woman that works here in this Capitol has either forgotten their oaths or they never intended to keep them in the first place. They have forgotten or ignored that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. They ignore our individual liberties. They push more laws and regulations down our throats, cutting the American people down. Whatever happened to our pursuit of happiness? What happened to our Declaration of Independence? It does not say that we are subject to only what a benevolent government will allow. It says that we are rightfully enabled from our Creator. It's time to stop this insanity and fight back against the cowards who are hiding behind their legislative pens. To cite our Declaration of Independence, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive to these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles, and organizing its powers to form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness.
History repeats itself. For those who forget.
We have a chance right now to change our government. Although we still have an opportunity to do it without the use of arms like our founding fathers were forced to do. In a book I wrote, I spoke of one of the first things that we as a people need to do in order to change our government in the way that it's run. And that is to again declare ourselves independent. But I am not asking you to rebel against our Constitution. I'm asking you to rebel against the two-party system that has been destroying our nation. It's time to stop voting along the party lines and start voting on principle. Abraham Lincoln was quoted as saying, "We the people are the rightful masters of both Congress and the courts." Not to overthrow the Constitution, but to overthrow the men who pervert the Constitution. And that is what I'm asking you to do. It should not matter what party a candidate is affiliated. What matters is character. What matters are principles. Our very first president, George Washington, warned us in his farewell address about the dangers of political parties. And we see his warning has gone unheeded, and we can now see the results. The father of our nation said, "The disorders and miseries which result gradually incline the minds of men to seek security and repose in the absolute power of an individual. And sooner or later, the chief of some prevailing faction more able or more fortunate than his competitors, turns his dispositions to the purposes of his own elevation on the ruins of public liberty. And that is what we're experiencing every day when they're passing laws. It is no longer the good of the people that these parties are considering, but how best they can remain in power. And we are the only ones that can stop it. We can no longer fully trust the Democrat or Republican parties as a whole. There have been some, and I say some, good candidates and representatives who have come from the parties. But as a whole, every single piece of negative legislation has been passed by one or both of these parties. They have pit us against one another when we are a nation that has to stand together as one. I've come here today to ask you to help me take responsibility for our nation's future, to stand up with me and tell those in power that we've had enough. We will no longer be silent. We will no longer accept the blame games or the finger pointing. We will no longer accept the excuses from these politicians. As part of you declaring yourself independent, I ask that you do not send any more money to either of the two parties. Back a candidate. Because unfortunately, when you back even the Republican Party, you are sending money to Senators McCain, Senators Graham, and Senators Hatch, who have sat there and crossed the aisle and compromised American values. You can look at the many things that the establishment of the Republican Party has done to our nation. They have compromised our values. They spent billions in our taxpayer dollars every day. And it's wasteful spending. They helped in the passage of the indefinite detention of the National Defense Authorization Act. They helped with the bailouts. They helped with the USA Patriot Act, which they're now using to spy on American citizens. They've expanded Medicaid beyond its intention. Several have even sided with giving Muslim extremist rebels allied with Al-Qaeda in Syria weapons. The same Al-Qaeda that attacked us on September 11th. I don't even think I need to go over what the Democrats have done. It's time we have leaders who will stand to the principles that make America great. And the only way we are going to save this nation is if we are going to act now. We have to start removing every single progressive in Washington, D.C., regardless of the letter that is attached to their name. We also need to have men and women of different trades. How many doctors in Congress helped pass Obamacare? How many criminologists in Congress have voted on gun legislation to decrease crime? How many pastors have been present to look at legislation that limits our religious freedoms? How many farmers have there been to vote on food issues? Where are the men and women who know what the real impact of these types of legislation that are passed in the halls of Congress daily? The answer to the above is few to none. This Capitol building has been filled with mostly lawyers and Wall Street-type businessmen. People who have reputations as being liars and thieves. There are reasons why there are so many lawyer jokes. There are reasons why there is a mistrust for big government and big business. They've earned that reputation with deceit. 2014 is going to be our real first chance for the refounding of America. There are a lot of Democratic seats up for grabs in the Senate. We can take them if we can get true conservative men and women out there on the stage willing to take the fight here to Washington, D.C. There are progressive Republicans with their seats up for grabs as well. I've mentioned a couple of them. If we stand up to the establishment, we can bring what happened in 2010 all over again. We can have more Mike Lees and more Ted Cruzes who are actually willing to fight for us. Now, President Obama, he said that we're going to see Nancy Pelosi as Speaker of the House again in 2014. Are we going to stand by and allow that to happen? No. Are we going to allow what happened with the passage of Obamacare? That a Speaker will have the gall to ask to pass a bill in order to find out what's inside of it? Are we going to withdraw as if this is none of our concern? Or are we going to plant our feet and fight? If America would adhere and uphold its rule of law, which is the United States Constitution, then communists, socialists, and Islam's Sharia law would hold no sway over our beloved nation. The Constitution is a protection against rogue governments, despots, and radical religions who would remove our most precious eternal gift, the gift of freedom. Remember that very little of the world lives under principles of liberty. We should not be so willingly letting them go. Men and women right now are dying in faraway lands, putting their lives on the line to take a bullet for all of us. We cannot forsake their sacrifice. We need to stand up and be worthy of their sacrifice. I ask you to look deep into your heart and soul. I ask that all Americans plant their feet and scream out in 2014 that we will not be pushed anymore. We will not allow bills to be passed without even reading them. We will not allow our elected representatives to forget their oaths. I, along with thousands of veterans, took a very similar oath to the men and women who worked in those halls. That oath you swear before God states that you will support and defend the Constitution of the United States. It does not say that we will only support what is convenient. It does not say that we can use our own interpretations that we magically squeeze out of thin air. The oath is clear. The Constitution is clear. And most of the men and women in this Capitol are in direct violation of their oaths. Quote one of our modern-day warriors for liberty, Senator Rand Paul. It is not enough to say, I do not intend to break the Constitution. You either believe in it or you don't. There are so few that remember that. If we can take a significant majority in this 2014 election, we can have the manpower to start removing these violators of their oaths. And that includes this president. Our Constitution even allows us, if we can get a majority, to start removing members of the House and the Senate. So when Dianne Feinstein wants to take away your guns, we can get rid of her. We can use our power as a people to knock them off of their pedestals. Are you going to help? Now, it's going to take a lot of work. We're going to have to build, and we're going to have to work harder than we ever have before. If all of us work together, putting aside the labels given us by the national media and political groups, and focus only on the restoration of our great republic, we will see our nation begin to grow again. But I adopted a motto several years ago, and it's become my life's creed. quam side, libertatem aut mors. Never surrender. Liberty or death. And that is the attitude that each and every one of us must have in order to preserve the freedoms our Constitution declares. Because no government, no president, no Congress, no military, no police force is going to necessarily protect your rights. You have to do it. That's why our founders included the Second Amendment, because they know that you are the ones that need to protect your liberty. And it's not just our rights today that we have to fight for. We have to rise up for our future generations, and we need to rise up out of respect for the past. Time and time again, the American people have been tested. Whether it's been Hitler's Reich or Al-Qaeda's terror, we have been faced with daunting challenges, and it would shake a weaker people's resolve. America is unique in that regard, because we do not go quietly into the night. When the British came to collect weapons at Lexington and Concord, ordinary citizens said no and stood to face the most advanced military in the world at that time, and they won. When we were attacked in Pearl Harbor and most of our Pacific fleet was sank, did we surrender to the Japanese? No! We built up stronger, better, and took the fight to them, and they surrendered to us. When we were attacked this fateful day 12 years ago, we banded together, and we donated blood, or we enlisted in the military. And we took the fight straight to the enemies of liberty. This fight is no different, and that blood of the American patriot is inside of each one of you. We have the same resolve as those who stood in Valley Forge, only this time it's a lot of heat and not cold. We have the same tenacity as the Marines at Guadalcanal. We have the same iron grit of the men at Chosin Reservoir. We are a nation of people who are willing to volunteer our lives and give them up if necessary to protect our liberty and the liberty of others. Each one of you must go home after we're done here and find that spark of liberty and ignite the torch among your friends and families. It took nearly 100 years to bring about the progressive agenda that we see today. We must be willing to give that 100 years or more to give our children and our grandchildren the same opportunities that we were born with. When you feel stressed out or hearing that little voice inside of your head telling you that you're only one person, that you're only one voice, I want you to remember this day. I want you to look around and see the patriots around you right now, and the other rallies that are going on right now with the Patriot Bikers, the Christian Patriots that are countering the Muslim March. And I want you to know that there are people willing to stand beside you. I am willing to stand beside you. And in those moments where you are at your most despair, do as our very first Commander-in-Chief did. Fall upon your knees and look to the heavens, because God is always with you. You are never alone, and you are never just one voice. Before you leave the Capitol, I would ask that you do something for me, and I know that it would help remember everything that we fight for. First, I want you to look at the American flag that is flying above our Capitol. First of all, it is at half-mast, out of respect for the men and women who died 12 years ago. They are worth fighting for. Then I want you to remember what the flag represents. The red stripes for the courage, valor, and the blood shed for our behalf. The white representing liberty's purity, and the blue, which is the shield for justice. And that is justice for all people. I would also ask that you go and visit the various memorials to our nation's heroes. The Iwo Jima Memorial, the Vietnam Memorial, the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. Remember their sacrifices to be here today, exercising our First Amendment right to peacefully assemble. Honor them with an oath of your own, that you, too, will defend the Constitution no matter the cost, because they did it for you, they did it for me, they did it for everyone here in this country. For a little snippet, these are the times that drive men's souls. I do not want to see any sunshine patriots or summer soldiers out of this group. We also have 4 more heroes to honor this day. And to honor their memory, we must never allow the infractions that happen to them. Since our government will not be held accountable by themselves, we must hold them accountable. Remember their names and let the government know that we have not forgotten their betrayal, and in spite of the fact that they have forgotten them, we have not. We will not forget Chris Stevens, Sean Smith, Glenn Doherty, or Tyrone Woods. We have not forgotten the countless and priceless lives fallen on behalf of our country from our military. We have not forgotten our founding fathers and our roots. We will hold true to the Constitution and our Declaration of Independence. Remember, a patriot is not someone who will simply die for his beliefs, but someone who will live every day for them. In closing, the Pledge of Allegiance says, with liberty and justice for all. And justice will be done. We the people will be heard. I ask you to stand up. Stand with me. Semper Fidelis. And let's restore America. God bless.
Excuse me. I'm not speaking right now. I'm speaking a little later. I'm having trouble finding someone. Does anybody know where John Boehner is? No, seriously.